Not too long ago, I showcased a little AKS in Tarkov and how much better it is than its previous incarnations. And luckily, that isn't the only weapon in the Kalashnikov family that is worth using. The tried and true staple of Tarkov itself, the AK-74. If you've played this game for any length of time, you will have had this weapon in your hands at some point. Whether naked with no attachments or completely brimped out with all the fancy attachments on offer, this gun is an iconic and classic within Tarkov. Despite how common you might think it is, the gun is still very enjoyable to run, regardless of how it's modded. So today I wanted to go over a couple builds that vary in both style and function. If you're here because you're curious about like the min-maxed build of it, I'm not really going to go over that, but here's a picture of the final product if you are curious. While arguably not as versatile and modular as something like maybe an M4, there is still enough on offer to warrant some level of creativity when it comes to building an AK. Also, we're going to be using two specific versions of the AK, the 74N and the 74M. The major difference being one stock is fixed and the other is foldable, which offers different options not available to the opposite. Also, something to note, these weapon builds are being built with at least all traders being at level 3 in mind. So while some attachments may be buyable at lower levels, some of these will only be available if you're at least level 30 or higher, so just keep that in mind. Starting with the 74N, the first build is about as cheap as it gets while also still being effective across the board. A simple, small optic on the rear iron sight allows for better accurate fire, even if, PK06 isn't as popular as it once was. The butt pad, although now being locked behind Gunsmith, is still as useful as it once was, and as inexpensive as it is, provides a surprising amount of recoil and ergo to the weapon without having to change the stock out. Here's the shopping list. And of course, the PWS muzzle brake is a classic for the AKs, being one of the better muzzles that stays loud for these guns for many years now. Again, this build isn't the best, isn't flashy looking, and certainly won't be winning any awards at like a gun show, but it provides everything you need for a functional and effective weapon without breaking the bank at all. The next build for the 74N is for all the tan enthusiasts out there in the world of Tarkov. I'm sure this is striking a chord with one of you right now, but I wanted something that looked visually striking while also using the buffer tube adapter for the AK, allowing for even more customization than normal. Most of the options on offer are usually worse than the normal AK attachments, but again, we're going for both function and form, and even with all the tan, this gun definitely looks the part for sure. Here's the shopping list. This one, of course, has the JMac muzzle on it for the best loud recoil reduction for the AKs, so at the very least the stock may be lacking in terms of some stats, but it's being made up for by the beast of a muzzle brake on this gun. The nice thing about these loud AKs is how snappy they are when you go to aim. Even when suppressed, you'll most likely have at least 50 ergonomics, which is plenty for when you're inside something like dorms or D2 or whenever you're trying to get close to somebody. The third build for the 74N is a quiet one, while not using the waffle suppressor because of its combined price and requirements for loyalty level 4, also providing some ranged effectiveness to boot. I don't know if it's just me, but out of the 3 hybrid optics in the game, the Hammer, the Elcan, and the Bravo, I personally find the Bravo to be the perfect fit for the 545 platform. The other two options just don't feel right and are either better suited for 556 or 308 weapons. But the Bravo with the little burst red dot on top, it makes for a very potent combo for long and short range combat. I also really like the red handguard to give the gun some color. Don't get me wrong, I like all black on a gun as well, but something about this handgun just does it for me. The orange option is nice too, but the red has a very deep color to it, so it's just personal preference. Here's the shopping list. Definitely the most expensive out of the 3, and you'll need some vendors level 4 for some of these parts, or you'll have to use the flea straight up to just find some of the other ones. As for the 74M, most of these items work for this version of the gun as well. The only difference is you will need different parts for the stock. And to be honest, there's only one real option for the 74M, which is the Classica stock. You can add a buffer tube to this version as well, but the Classica stock looks the coolest and has the best stats, so it's kind of a no-brainer. And I know the PSO isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I really like it for its ease of usability and how it just goes right on the gun. No dust cover, no rails, no nothing. You just find it in raid, or you buy one from a vendor, you slap it on, and you're all set. Here's the shopping list. Now, the price is so high because of the suppressor specifically. The hybrid is really expensive, but there are barters for the hybrid 46 at a much more reasonable price, so take those into account if you plan on running this weapon, or at least with this suppressor in mind. Of course, there are a ton of ways to make the AKs work in this game, and these are just a few examples. I think that's why I like this platform so much. Depending on how much money you have, your vendor levels, and what your goals are in a raid, There is certainly enough variety to make these reliable weapons fit any role you need them to. And the best part is, there are so many different variants of the AK that maybe the N or the M isn't what you're looking for. If you're trying to do some close quarters combat in dorms or resort, then maybe the AK-105 might be worth using because it has a short barrel. This platform is very flexible, and that's kind of why I always find myself coming back to it time and time again. I suppose that's what happens when you use a classic of Tarkov, an old reliable that has been through some growing pains in the past, but is probably the best it's been in a very long time. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about guns in Tarkov that are fun to build. I hope to see you in future ones.